I remember that I wanted to work with Travis Barker. And this is a really cool story. I was like, I want to work with Travis Barker. I have my why. I know that he'd been in a plane accident and he'd been through severe trauma. Everyone else in the plane accident had died except for him, except for one other person who committed suicide later. He had burned 70% of his body. Had been 12 years and he was never going to fly again, because of the trauma that he'd been through. I knew deep down that I could support him and I knew how to help him with that trauma. But I didn't know how that would happen, right? It's Travis Barker. You can't just pick up the phone and call him.
So, Lukis, I remember I was sitting in Ammo Spa in Canggu. This is years ago. Maybe 2017, maybe it was.
Probably around then.
Yeah, 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And there was a dude behind me saying, he was talking to another friend. I was just eavesdropping this conversation as I'm sitting in this order with a bunch of other people.
As you do in Bali.
As you do in Bali. And he was going on about how he had an amazing breathwork session with this guy, Lukis. And I just had this ping and I turned around and go, can I please get his details? Fast forward a couple of days, I'm up in Ubud with you. First time I got to meet with you. And we did a session together and it just blew my mind. I remember before we even started the main session, you taught me the breath to use in the mornings. The 10 breaths, hold, 20 breaths, hold, 30 breath hold. I mean, it was transformational, truly transformational. And then the actual session that we had just made me pop and made me have some really big realizations. To now today being able to see you do the work that you and Hella do is just incredible.
Thanks.
So firstly, I just want to say thanks. You've been such a great friend during this period. Every time that I get to be with you, every time I get to talk with you, I'm always walking away a happier, better dude. So I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, that was cool. I remember those times in Ubud. Man, it was just an amazing place to be. I lived there for 3 years and then we left and did our traveling adventures and, started to get this work out around the world. But that time in Ubud for me was a beautiful time. Amazing.
So I want us to give some context right now. How did you get into breathwork? What was the kind of genesis story for you to be this is the calling, this is a part of the message that you do?
So it would go way back to my childhood. And as a child, I was really sensitive growing up and I had asthma and I also suffered with anxiety and depression from a really young age. So I remember there would be times where these panic attacks would come on and I couldn't breathe. And I remember Mum would rush me off to the emergency centre and they'd hook me up to the ventilator machines so I could breathe again. So there was this really early on experience of being short of breath, not being able to breathe fully and feeling the impact of feeling everyone else's emotions around me and not knowing what to do with that energy and other people's emotions and also what I was experiencing as a kid and what I was navigating. And there was a lot of, I'd say, things that I experienced growing up that we could call they were traumatic for me. So I think that as a kid, I was learning and becoming more aware of my body and more aware of what was causing me this anxiety and how can I manage it and how can I be more aware of my breath. And I obviously didn't know anything about breathwork techniques then, but I would know through direct experience when I'd slow down my breath, that would start to help me to relax my mind and body. And I could recognize that when I was in a stress response, that my breath was more short and shallow and more in my upper chest. And, it was kind of a light bulb went on in a certain moment. And the light bulb was, if I can control my breath and I can control my physiology and how I feel in the present moment. And through breath work and meditation, which I started really young, that was a way for me to explore my inner world of how I was feeling. And also it was giving myself permission to just be with what is without, making myself wrong for feeling all the feelings that I was feeling at that time. And then along that journey, there was more trauma that was experienced as we all go through, I lost my father when I was seven years old, he took his own life. And that was a really intense time in my life, which started a big journey of being on a self-destructive path. And on that journey of being in
the fly path of Venice.
Yeah. So on that journey of being in a self-destructive path, it led me to make a choice in my life. And the choice was, do I follow in my father's footsteps and take my own life, which was very much on that path of self-destruction, or choose to work on myself and find out a way out of that struggle and find a way to heal myself, basically. So that began like 10 years of inner work, working with different healers and therapists and shamans and all the things that you do. And along that journey, I found breath work, and that was an absolute game changer for me. So.
Was there a moment that like the mind just popped for you, you had that clarity, and you're like, breath work is the tool that I'm going to use, and that's the thing that I can cultivate?
Yeah, it was my very first breathwork session. My very first breathwork session, I was feeling so much energy in my body, and the thing that I realized, the light bulb moment for me, was I was doing the work on myself. So it wasn't a therapist, it wasn't a shaman, it wasn't a healer. In that space, I was my own healer. Even though there was facilitators that were supporting me, I was feeling the energy, I was releasing the emotions, I was getting the clarity. The breakthroughs were happening in real time inside my body, and I was feeling everything, and I felt so connected to what was happening. And for me, that was like, boom, this is the medicine that I'm going to take out to the world. This is what deeply resonates with me, because this is full permission for people to feel their emotions. And, you know, as men, we've been so conditioned, a lot of us have been, to not feel our emotions, to stay busy or to numb ourselves or to run away or to fight what we're feeling. But this is a direct experience of transformation healing through feeling whatever comes up in the session. And a lot comes up, you know, so
I want to go into this because for me, so many breathwork sessions, every breathwork session that I've done with you as well, there is this like, and again, we'll say this before we kind of like hit record, I'm wanting to better use language to describe the experience that I go through. But for me, there's just like this, do you know what I mean? Seventh chakra opening, and I just have like this clarity pouring down through me. What is going on there? Like when someone is having a breakthrough, when someone is working through trauma, when someone is having a very deep experience in a breathwork session, how can you communicate, Lukis, like what the hell is actually happening?
What's going on in the body? Yeah, well, it's like working on multiple levels. So in like daily life, we're usually in our analytical thinking mind, which is associated with beta brainwaves. And when we go into a breathwork session, we're moving out of brainwaves and we're accessing more of, you know, an alpha brainwave or theta brainwaves. So we're going into a deeply relaxed state. We're moving past our conscious mind, which makes up 3 to 5%, and we're moving into the unconscious mind, which makes up anywhere from, 97 to 95%. So we have access to way more information, than we do in our daily life. So we're opening up, we're expanding, we're connecting to more information through memory, through feeling. And then we're accessing more of our limbic system, which is the part of our brain that is associated with memory and emotion. So memories and emotions from the past, things that we haven't been processed, things that are incomplete, will come up to the surface to be completed. And, that's working with the nervous system and working with that fight, flight, or freeze or fawn response. And in that moment, we're just moving energy that's become stuck in the body through not being able to feel it, not being able to complete it. We get an opportunity to complete and let go of that energy. And that might be through emotions, that might be through energy feeling like, it's just literally moving through the body and being cleared out. It might come through shaking or trembling, many ways that the body can discharge that energy. But ultimately, we're just allowing ourselves to breathe deeply and fully, and we're kind of getting out the way. The body-mind system knows what to do. We get out the way, we let the body-mind do its thing, and we just start opening up to be curious about what wants to come through for the highest good. Because in that space, we do have access to our intuition. We do have access to our unconscious mind. So there's a lot of data there that we can tap into.
I remember us chatting a while ago, and it was after you had done the Dispenser 7-day retreat. And it was interesting because for the last couple of years, one of my practices that I've been doing is having a float tank session with a psilocybin tea that I make, and in the float tanks as well, I get them to play a dispenser meditation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wicked. Like it's been really profound for me because I feel like that's like the weekly therapy session that I've been going to and being able to work through that. And for me, what I find really interesting, Lucas, is just like giving myself that actual space without having to retreat to technology or outside distractions. And do you know what I mean? I'm not there having to take care of my daughter's wife, business, responsibilities. I'm just like, no, this is just me right now. And I feel like I had that feeling every time I've sat down with you to do the breath work as well. It's like, okay, no, this is a really, I'm making this a sacred space and time to work through the stuff that I need to work through right now. How can you help people cultivate that space for them to actually do whatever it is that they need to do?
Well, the opposite is just being so focused externally on everything going on in our environment and our lives and all our to-do lists and all the things that we need to focus on and achieve. And all of that is necessary, but it's also necessary to create time and space to go inward, right? So that would be what I'd suggest and like what I'd recommend to people is just finding a space, and it could be through any practice at all. It doesn't have to be breathwork or meditation, but finding a practice that allows you to go inward. So closing your eyes and just connecting with yourself and how you're feeling and what's going on for you, you know, and I think that's so important, and it's a really undervalued thing in society.
I totally get that. It was actually just before I came up to LA, I was in San Diego for this workshop, and a lot of the workshop was about soul connection with Paul Chek. And that was just really interesting to be like, oh my God, like I have this internal guidance system that I have not been listening to as I go through this. Now, the work that you do, I'm a raving fan. And I've worked with a lot of different breathwork practitioners, all of them absolutely fantastic. And one thing I kind of want to dispel is like, if someone hears breathwork for the first time, they're like watching or listening to us right now, that there is so much nuance. There is so many different levels and things that I don't even know how to put words to as well. So when it comes to like awaken and the way that you do what you and Hella do, how do you even describe that? Like what's actually going on there?
Yeah, so with Awaken Breathwork, we're not focusing on like functional breathing and functional breathwork. We're focusing on a somatic, you know, Awaken Breathwork is a somatic therapy. So somatic therapy means we're getting out of the mind, we're getting into the body, and we're allowing ourselves to feel, first and foremost, our emotions and different sensations in our body. And we're going through the process of just being with what is in the moment and being curious of what wants to come up naturally as we move out of the way and we access more of our unconscious mind. And it is a direct experience of transformation and healing. So it's very different to other forms of breath work because, you know, it's a deep journey that we're taking ourselves on. It's a breathwork journey will go anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. And we're really going deep in that space, and we are opening up, and it is a sacred space where you get to feel and, you know, you get to process, and it's a therapy session, you know, where you get to move energy and connect into your own insights and clarity, and everything's coming from you. It's not coming from the facilitator. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about it. It's a direct experience. So yeah, it's been a game changer for me, and it's just an absolute pleasure to support people on their healing journey. And this is not just about healing too. Like as we open up to explore these non-ordinary states of consciousness, we are opening up to more information. So this could translate into business. This could translate into your relationships. It could translate into any area of your life with you having a breakthrough and you accessing your new level from within, and then you get to take action on it and make it real.
Okay, so I'll share an experience that I had with this. It was actually 2020. It was just before COVID breakout, shit hits the fan. I was booked to fly here to LA. I had a workshop that I was running down at Venice Beach. I was flying a team member from Australia over as well. Like I had everything booked in for this trip, had interviews booked in, that we were going to be doing. And then I had a breathwork session, and I just had this clarity come to me being like, call it off. Don't do it. Like, and I got out and I was like, oh my God, like shit, I don't think I'm supposed to do this trip. Like, I think I've just got to call everything off. And it was like crazy because I had to cancel like everything. And, my wife was Shady Shack Cafe, and I went and saw she was having a coffee, and I was like, I think I've just got to call this off. And she just said, listen to yourself. If that's what your intuition's saying, then just do it. And I did it, called everything off. The next day was when shit hit the fan, everything started to lock down. And I just couldn't believe how that was like the moment for me where I kind of went from like meathead dude to then being able to be like, oh, I really can listen to this intuition, to this other thing, to this, to me, this like message that's coming really organically, and then being able to listen to it properly to then be able to affect what I'm doing in the world as well.
So important.
Dude, it's incredible. Like, I remember, like, I'll link to the episode that we did last time we were here in LA, when you took me through a breathwork session, because that was profound for me. Like, I walked away absolutely blown away from being able to go through that experience as well. So when someone thinks of breathwork, Lukis, and they're like, okay, this is amazing. It's somatic healing. I'm being able to tap into more information than I normally can. What is the cadence or like hedonic calendar that I might think about this, so that I know where does breathwork actually fit in on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly kind of schedule? Yeah,
so I do breathwork every single day, but it's more daily practices. And one of the practices I love doing is something that we created called Awaken Daily. And that's 10, 20, 30 with some breath holds in between. And that's all about allowing yourself to get all the benefits of a daily breathwork practice, which there's many. But the thing I love about it the most is at the end of the 30 breaths, you hold your breath for as long as you want. And then when it's time to breathe again, you ask yourself the question, what does my inner guidance want me to know right now? Or it could be, what does my intuition want me to know right now? And you're just being curious and allowing yourself to tap in. And it's like think of it like a muscle, right? The more we connect to our intuition, the stronger it gets, and the more we develop it. So over time, we just start listening to our intuition more and more. So I love that practice on the daily to help me connect with my intuition. And then from there, I get to listen to it, trust it, and take action on it, which can be scary for a lot of people because, we can question our intuition or our gut feeling or our natural instincts, We can get all up in our head and into our analytical thinking mind and be in a conflict with it.
Do you have an example of when you've done that daily breath work, you've listened to what your intuitions want to say, and you've had to make a dramatic change?
Yep. So for me, that's kind of how I operate now. I don't even operate in beta brainwaves in my analytical thinking mind. I do for daily tasks, like when I'm doing and say I'm sending emails and I'm doing all of that stuff. But when it comes to my decision making, I use my Awaken Daily practice. I use my breathwork practice. I use meditation to connect into my intuition to make those decisions. And I always do that. And I'll never make a decision without not doing that. Because for me, if I'm just making decisions from a limited amount of information that I have access to, rather than opening up to have more information and connect with my natural instincts of what I know to be true, then to me, that's the place I need to be making decisions from. So that comes in everyday life. That comes in my relationship. That comes with business. That comes with finances. That comes with business deals. That comes with everything that I do. So there's just so many examples, but ultimately, one of the biggest examples that I could bring forward in this moment, it's about speaking things into existence. So when you have a gut feeling or a gut instinct, or you have that intuitive, feeling on something, it's about following through on it. So for me, for example, I remember that I wanted to work with Travis Barker, and this is a really cool story. I was like, I want to work with Travis Barker. I have my why. I know that he'd been in a plane accident and he'd been through severe trauma. Everyone else in the plane accident had died except for him, except for one other person who committed suicide later. He'd burned 70% of his body. Had been 12 years and he was never going to fly again, because of the trauma that he'd been through. I knew deep down that I could support him and I knew how to help him with that trauma. But I didn't know how that would happen, right? It's Travis Barker. You can't just pick up the phone and call him. So every day in my meditation practice, I'd connect to my why, and I'd really just allow myself to be in that space of curiosity and just seeing it as if it's already happened. And it was more about giving value. So rather than what can I get, what can I give? So I really came with that mindset. And every day I'd listen to my intuition. And I remember one day, one of my friends from New Zealand came over for a breathwork session, and we did the breathwork session, and we were talking about Calabasas after the breathwork session, just mentioning about how we grew up in West Auckland and how it's so different here in LA, and people just have access to so much abundance, and we were just blown away by it. And in that space, I mentioned that I would love to work with Travis Barker. I don't know what called me to say that. I think we were talking about music or something, and he was like, dude, I was over at Travis's house the other week. I'm friends with Travis. And I had no idea that connection was there. And he was like, I'm going to mention it to Travis. I'll put it out there. And the next day, Travis followed me and was messaging me in the DMs. And this is the part where the intuitive and the trust comes in. So I was messaging Travis. He was keen. We're going to do the breathwork session. Then from the moment we started messaging, it was 1 year until we did the first breathwork session because of his tour schedule and everything that he had going on. So fast forward, I rock up on his house, I knock on the door, and I support him, during these sessions, and we do multiple sessions. And then he starts, he got together with Courtney, and then they started flying together, and now he's traveling all around the world. So I know that the breathwork had a catalyst along with Courtney and her deep love for him and desire to travel the world with him. But just through me following that intuitive hit, saying yes to it, and being from a place of service rather than not what can I get, but what can I give, not knowing how it's going to happen, but having the courage to speak it into existence and then to follow through, on, taking action on it. That's what I'd say is the power of listening to your intuition. You can literally make the impossible, come true, because there is no real limitations except for the limitations we place upon ourselves. And usually those limitations are from our own conditioning and programming. But if we can move beyond our own programming and our own limited beliefs, which is the power of breath work, then we can start to access more belief in ourselves, and we can start to really take action on the things that matter.
There's two threads I want to pull from that one. And I think the first one I want to pull is, let's call a spade. The conditions and life that you've come from in New Zealand, the trauma that you went through, just what you went through to get to here. How, from that experience, can you help someone if they're like, oh, okay, Lukis, my intuition, my inner knowing, my guidance, it's telling me that I want to follow this path, but they're unable to feel worthy or capable of being able to create that or speak it into existence. What do you think's kind of the process that you could recommend, or the breadcrumbs that you could lay down for someone to then actually start taking steps towards that?
Yep. So someone who's on the early stages of their own healing journey that doesn't yet believe in themselves or feel worthy to create that. For me, on a personal level, and I can only speak from personal experience, it's come through the work. It's come through doing the work on myself, because I used to have such a negative, relationship with myself, a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of self-harming, really didn't believe in my ability to create anything, and I didn't feel worthy to create anything. And through doing the inner work, and the inner work I'm talking about is feeling your emotions and working through the trauma and working through things that you've been through in the past that aren't resolved. By bringing completion, resolving those things, then you start to open up into more self-love. And through that practice of, really healing the past and being more in the present moment and accessing self-belief, you can start to take action on the things that truly matter to you. But it is a journey, and it's really important that people, they take away the pressure, and it's less about the destination and being in a hurry to get there, and more being on the journey of healing. Because for me, it was a 10-year journey. It was a 10-year journey of really battling internally with everything that I had experienced and going through such extreme highs and lows and days that I didn't want to be on this planet, and really kind of going through the struggle. But on the other side of embracing all the darkness and all the suppressed emotions and all the trauma, there's so much freedom, there's so much self-liberation, there's so much love, and there's just so much beauty on the other side of all that pain. So my response to someone who's in that space right now would be to dedicate yourself to the work. And the work could be breathwork journeys. The work could be meditation. The work could be working with psychedelics and shamans. The work could be feeling, around your personal development or your health and fitness journey. It could be around anything that you feel called to put time and energy into that fills up your own cup and allows you to be with what is, and just take away all that judgment and stop I don't want to say stop because that's the wrong words, and allow yourself to be with what is in the present moment. So if you wake up and you're suffering, that's what's happening in the moment. If you place more judgment on top of that suffering, then it's like suffering on suffering on suffering. If you wake up and you don't feel good, just acknowledge how you feel. Be with what is. Don't be afraid to sit with your emotions and to feel your emotions and process your emotions in the present moment, because, man, we've been so disconnected from our emotions and from sensations in our body, with all kinds of ways to escape and all kinds of ways that we have to cope with what we're feeling and to run away and numb ourselves. And for me personally, the medicine was feeling my emotions.
Two things, Lucas. I just get this overwhelming sense that you come from a place of service and love that is not something I see a lot, and I love seeing it. Like, I wanted to ask the question, do you know what I mean, if we were to like blend you up and distill you down, like what's the essence that makes the uniqueness of Lukis and so powerful? My answer would be something of like truth and love, and they're quite synonymous with each other as well. What do you think it is? Have you subscribed? If not, this is the best time for you to subscribe, whether you're on the YouTube or on the podcast. Why? Because it would be a bummer if you missed out on everything that's to come, or don't subscribe if you're not actually getting much value out of this, because there is a zillion other things that you could be doing. So I'd rather you go and do that. The ball's in your court.
It's a deep realization that we're here on this planet for a limited amount of time. And while I'm here on this planet, I want to create impact. I want to support people on the healing and transformation journey, because I know what it's like to suffer. I know what it's like to feel great, immense pain. And because I've been through my own version and experience of that pain and trauma, and I've come out the other side, I now know I now know that we're capable of moving beyond it. And I've now seen and had the privilege of helping thousands of people to do this work and to heal themselves. And for me, it's just the biggest blessing, and it really lights me up. But the biggest thing for me is around impact. When it's all said and done and I leave this world, I want to know that I left this world better than when I came into it. And I know that's a big conversation, but I really feel a deep calling to support with the transformation and healing on this planet, to shift collective consciousness in whatever way I can. And I just feel super inspired around this work. And to me, it's one of the things that brings me the most joy and lights me up. So it's just an all-round no-brainer for me, It's just like, fuck yes, let's do it, let's go.
I love this. When you have a big group of people that you're facilitating through a workshop, what do you think is happening on a collective with each other? Like, what is actually, because for me, it's a palpable sensation, but I struggle to put words to it.
For me, it's a permission slip. So if you're in a group of people that are feeling their emotions, and you're hearing them express their emotions, and you're sensing the energy in the room, and there's a lot moving for people, and you're in your own journey, and for a long time you maybe have not been feeling safe to express yourself or to feel your emotions or to be in the work, and other people around you are in it, it's a full permission slip to just say, fuck it, I'm going to go all the way in, and whatever happens, it happens, and let's go for it. That's what it is for me.
All right, I want to go back to what you said before, because for me, I found it very true for myself, is like when being able to actually listen to myself, and I use the word spidey senses. Do you mean, like, for me, it's like, spidey senses are tingling, and very much for me, do you mean playing the role of CEO, for example, I think is really interesting, because I can sit there, and for me, I've got a friend, Damon, he says like there's different levels to like the work that we do. There's employee, there's manager, there's entrepreneur, investor, and wizard at the top. And for me, and he said something really profound, which was like, if you're working too hard, you're a shit wizard. And it hit me really hard, because at the time I was really like doing axe to the grind, like, okay, I've got to get at this. And I was like, I'm being a shit wizard. I'm going about this all the wrong way. And for me, it was then being able to sit back and take in whatever information, like reporting and data and all that stuff that might come from team members, but then being able to sit back and be like, well, what are my spidey senses saying right now? Like, where is it that I want to head? And it's been really interesting because I find a part of my work with businesses is I need to sit down, meditate, be quiet, go for a walk with no other stimulus or input, and kind of like cultivate a space for me to be like, oh, this is the right decision. Because then when I also thought about it, is like, if I try and rationally collect a bunch of information and I have, let's say I've got a decision between two options, and if I make a decision on one of those options, someone's going to say, well, why did you do it? And essentially the ultimate onion kind of layer you get to is like, well, because I feel like that's the right one. And so I'm kind of like bypassing the bullshit that's been in between me to now being able to be like, okay, well, this feels like the right decision, and being able to go with it. How can I better cultivate that? How can I better cultivate being a wizard?
I think it's the daily practice of just really allowing yourself to, well, when you tap into your subconscious mind, right? Your subconscious mind has all the information and it can start to reorganize things in a way that your conscious mind can't. So can you just allow yourself to be in meditation, close down your eyes, be with your breathwork practice, be with the sounds of nature, be with what's happening in your body. And then once you move past any kind of stress or any kind of tension in your body, and you just open up your awareness and you expand your awareness to what is, your subconscious mind is going to start to reorganize that data so you know the best decision to make for you, and you can listen to your intuition and connect to it, and then you can take action on it, right? But it's a really, for me along my journey with business, it's all been all about like delegation. Like, what is my highest calling to focus on for me right now, and what is not? And all of that other stuff I get to delegate out to other people, and I get to hand over. And a part of that is relinquishing control and trusting that other people are going to show up to do a good job. And all I need to do is focus on my part. But if I give 110% to my part, and then I hold people accountable to, be at 110% with their part, then we're in the zone, we're in the flow. And whenever I lose the flow, that means for me personally, I'm stressed out. If I'm stressed out, I'm too focused externally. I'm disconnected from the truth that I'm a creator being, that I can create anything I want when I believe in myself, when I'm in right relationship with myself. So then it's time to do the work. It's time to get back, to go inwards, to connect with my subconscious mind, to connect with my unconscious, to bring that data into a place where I resonate on like the next decision that I need to make. And it's a deep knowing. It's not something that I'm in conflict with. It's just I know in that present moment that is the right move. That's the next response. That's what I need to take action on. This is what I need to delegate to this person. This is what I need to delegate to that person. This is what I need to do in this moment. And then I show up all the way for what I need to do. So for me, that's the power of the inner work. You really get to sit with yourself and kind of process everything that's going on around in your external reality, and you get to like focus internally and come to these clear decisions. But it's from a point of clarity. It's from a point of knowing. It just is. You just know. So, yeah.
That was really good. That was really good. What do you... Oh, actually, this is something I wanted to ask. I was thinking about this last night. When you're in a session with someone like a high achiever, people that are really looking up to because they're doing great things in the world, generally doing great things in the world, and generally somebody that's not, for example, what's the difference with how they show up to their breath sessions?
So I'd say the difference, so with a high achiever, what they're struggling with the most is maybe being able to relax. They have a lot that's going on in their world. They also take on a lot of pressure externally, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves to achieve at that high level. So it's about letting go of that pressure in that moment, unwinding that stress and tension in their body, and knowing that it's safe to relax for that moment, and knowing by doing that, they're creating space to open up to their inner guidance where more information can come through, and then they can go out again and take action and do all the things. So they're really working on being able to relax and to find a space where they can just kind of tune out all the noise. And then with someone who maybe doesn't kind of have that work ethic, who is in a state of maybe having resistance to taking action, or even resistance to maybe they don't want to put themselves out in the world for whatever reason, fear of judgment, or fear of failure. For those people, it might be working more on, like, say, belief systems or confidence or feeling empowered. And that might be around releasing things in the past that have, made them not feel confident or made them feel not worthy or not good enough. So we're working on that deep kind of stuff within the subconscious mind to release it and clear it and let it go. And that usually comes with emotions and exploring relationships and experiences that we've been through. But usually with high performers, I'm not really exploring things too much on an emotional level unless there's something that's happened for them that's really, that's happened that they, it's really on the forefront of their mind and they're feeling it in that moment, and then we'll explore it and move through it. Usually it's just around focusing on relaxing and getting into a deep place of surrender so they can open up to more information, and from that place they can take action in their lives with that information. So.
Dude, that's really interesting to me. Yeah, okay, I really like that. One aspect that I think we both would have seen this in Bali, but I think you're much more in tune, is a place of where someone's doing the work but not getting the results that they want. Some people might call this like spiritual bypassing, spiritual materialism, but essentially if someone's they're doing the psychedelics, they're going to breathwork sessions, there's cacao ceremonies more than they can poke a stick at, they're doing all of those things, but then they're not actually creating, manifesting, living the life that they really want. Where do you think there might be a disconnect?
I think it's in the integration aspect of it, integrating it into daily life, knowing that life is the ceremony and that we need to show up for life, right? We need to be in this physical dimension and we need to be taking action. And if we're just so focused on opening up and expanding our awareness and working on consciousness, and we're disconnected from being in the body and being in this dimension and taking action, I think it's all around integrating that wisdom that you connect to in those sessions. And for a lot of people, I think there's a performance element where that might be like an ego identity. Their identity is in the work, but their identity might not be yet in taking action, making that work a reality in whatever way they feel called to. So I think the disconnect comes from, for a lot of people, it's a performance. They do it to look good. It's a part of their identity, but they're not actually applying the wisdom. They're not actually grounding it into the here and now, and they're not taking action on it. And they're using it as a place to escape rather than like opening up and getting that energy, getting that information and those insights, and then coming and being in the present moment and acting upon, those insights. So I think, I think many people use ceremony to escape this reality. Many people do that. Many people use it to like expand their awareness and to work through trauma and to have more of a like open experience of, connecting with what we, goes beyond words, and we can only point to, because when we work with psychedelics or when we work with breath work, we're accessing that non-ordinary state. So there's just so much there. But if you're using it for a form of escaping, I think the key is to, one, realize that that's what you're doing, and then to know that like that has become like an addictive behavior, that we're just jumping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. But can you just be in the present moment? Can you allow all that wisdom and everything that you've gained in those sessions to be right here with it, and then to listen to it, and then to take action on it? Because if we're not taking action on it, then we're not working with universal law, right? We're not in alignment with, the law of inspired action. So we need to be in alignment with all the universal laws, and we need to be aligned with ourselves and our bodies, right? And can't just be disassociated from our bodies and disassociated from the present moment. Because in order to create success in life and have impact, man, the work ethic, the drive, the dedication to yourself, the investing in yourself and investing in a team to support you, and all the things that you have to do, it's a lot. You have to be really passionate, and you have to be really grounded in the here and now, and you have to know like your why, so.
God damn it, you're good, Lucas. Incredible. I've got one more question, and after this, could you take us through what a daily session looks like?
Of course, yeah.
That'd be incredible, dude.
Yep.
Moving forward from here, what are you most excited about?
What am I most excited about?
maybe excitement's the wrong words. Moving forward from here, what are you most expanded or energized about?
So I'm really expanded and energized about setting up base in Los Angeles and creating home here and creating events in Los Angeles that in a way that have never been done before. And that's something that really excites me and inspires me. And then I'd say adding in the piece to that is working with influential people that have a big reach and getting this work out far and wide. And I have many ideas and a lot of inspiration and a lot of like intuitive hits that are coming through on that. But for me, it would be around the impact that this work can have in the world. It really, really lights me up and inspires me. So I know that being here in Los Angeles is going to open up many doors for us, and I'm excited for that. And I just enjoy being here. And to be honest, like beyond all of that, I'm just excited to just be fucking alive, bro. To be alive, to be here right now, beyond any like success or impact, just to be in this present moment, even to having this conversation right here, right now, like it's all a blessing, right? So I'm just focused on gratitude and just gratitude for being alive, for having my breath, for having this body, for being in this present moment.
Well, dude, I appreciate you so much. You're genuinely an amazing dude. I love being able to call you a friend. Like I watch you do what you do, and it brings me inspiration, and it sets a benchmark that I think we all should be striving towards as well.
Oh, thanks.
So I really appreciate that. And your ability that comes through, like, I'll use the word like surrender. Do you mean your ability to surrender and let things come through you? And no, it's the ability for it to come as you. And so rather than you forcing it, it comes from this position of power. It's something I'm working on cultivating for myself. So I love being able to look towards you as doing Northern Star as that and say,
thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
I really appreciate it, dude. Appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed this episode and it's vibed with you, then make sure that you hit subscribe, whether you're on the YouTube or on the podcast. And importantly, if there is any guests that you want me to have on the show or specific questions or topics that you want me to be able to cover for you, simply put it into the YouTube comments or send me an Instagram DM. That way I can make sure you're getting the most out of actually being here.